Walk on with hope in your heart, and you'll never walk alone. We get ready now to listen to our message, which would be, I walk by faith, not by sight. I walk by faith, not by sight. And this message will be delivered by our dear minister, Reverend Martin Bernard. Over to you, Martin.
Thank you very much, beloved Monica, for your warm introduction. Beloved, I greet you in love as we worship together for the glory of God.
We greet you in love as we worship together for the glory of God.
And as always, I salute the divine energy that has brought us here together, never by accident, but always by reason of divine appointment. So how are you this morning? Well, I know that we are always in our rightful place at the right time and for the right purpose, and we have the right consciousness and so our reason for being here this morning. I feel that before we go forward, the teacher in me tells me that it is always good to link with the previous knowledge, so that we perhaps should go back to last week when we began our Lenten discussions, and to just revisit some of what we did then. And I believe the majority of you who are here today would have been here last week Sunday, and you may recall that we spoke about remember what was the title of the message? Very good, the reality, somebody said it, the reality of Lent. And we made some very salient points that we should perhaps revisit. We said that as far as we are concerned in unity, from a unity perspective, that the reality of Lent goes beyond just physical fasting from meat and fish and drinking alcohol and so on. You know, although some of my friends misuse me for telling them about fasting from drinking alcohol, you know. And you know, so it goes beyond that for us in unity. And we said, essentially, and not just in unity, but in other New Thought movements. And as I pointed out last week, even in addition to New Thought movements, so much to my pleasant surprise, I saw that the Pope of the Catholic Church was basically saying the same thing in his Ash Wednesday message, that we fast from error thoughts and feelings, we fast from negative thoughts and feelings to really capture the spirituality of Lent. And since there must be no vacuum, we therefore replace those negative thoughts and feelings by positive, uplifting, rich thoughts and feelings. So it brought us then to the whole parallel between the releasing and renewing, as our booklet tells us. We release and we renew. So we release on the one hand all that is unpalatable to the nature of God in us, and we renew that instead by positive thoughts and words and feelings that would help to uplift us. So this is what we said last week, and I gave you a particular thought that you were supposed to work with last week to set you free. Remember what that thought was?
I release and I renew all your truth.
Of course, some people bright in here, I release and remember well, I release and I renew all year through. So I trust you have been working with that, right?
Yes.
Okay, I see Leonard pointed out she's sorry she has it written down in her book. You know? But that's all right, that's not cheating. It shows that you were conscientious enough to at least take a note of it. So that is good. So let us say that again, I release and I renew.
I release and I renew
All year through.
all year through.
And it is important that we understand that it is not just to the Lenten season. The Lenten season serves as an inspiration, if anything at all, as a reminder, if anything at all, as to what we really should be doing if we understand the nature of Lent, what we should really be doing all year through. So, we move on this week, and our Lenten discussions take us along a journey in faith. Yes, a journey in faith. And it is prompted by the Lenten reading, which our city did so well this morning, by Reverend Colbert, entitled Walking in the Oneness of Faith. And so coming out of that, my core message to you is, I walk by faith, not by sight. Let me say, I walk by faith, not by sight.
I walk by faith, not by sight.
I don't believe you. Let's say it again. I walk by faith, not by sight.
I walk by faith, not by sight.
And that, of course, comes out of the scriptural text that was taken from 2 Corinthians 5 verse 7, where it is said collectively, we walk by faith, not by sight, and we can now personalize it as a personal affirmation. I walk by faith and not by sight. But you see, friends, what does that say to us? Anybody like to explain that in the words of words? I walk by faith, not by sight. Well, what does that really say? I walk by faith, not by sight. But I think I'm reading some of your minds. And yeah, so you see, I just said it. You don't have to see in order to believe. That's what it's saying, you know. You don't have to have the physical results in order to then believe. But you believe it even when the physical results are not there as yet. You're able to say praise and thanks to God even if you're not seeing the physical evidence as yet. Why? Because you walk by faith and not by sight. And some may argue that, you know, we have already dealt with the faculty of faith because in this center we do a sort of structured thing where in January you talk about faith, in February love, in March you deal with strength. So this is in fact the month of strength. Then when we come to after March is what, April we deal with wisdom, and then in May we deal with power, and then in June we deal with imagination, and then in July we deal with I'm going on the road. Right? But the thing about it is that you can never have too much of a discussion on faith because you can never have too much faith. So there's no difficulty in coming back to dealing with faith. Why? Because we walk by faith and not by sight. Not in January alone, but we walk by faith and not by sight all the time. All the time. You see, friends, what we have got to understand is that faith is the engine room around which so many of the other faculties revolve. Faith is the engine room around which so many of the other faculties revolve. And I want to posit that is the primary reason why we start with that. Because every other faculty that comes after revolves around that, you know. And the thing is, when we are in tune with our faculty of faith, the other faculties come to the fore. For example, the person who is really attuned to the faculty of faith, the person who is really and truly faith-filled, can also boldly proclaim that I am strong in the Lord and in the power of His might. So you bring faith and strength into a relationship. Yeah. It is hard to divorce the one from the other. When you're faithful, you're filled with a spiritual strength, a spiritual fortitude, a spiritual courage, because you can also proclaim that I am strong in the Lord and in the power of His might. You can even bring into a relationship faith with love. You know that? Love and faith. As I say this, you know, let's take a simple example. Even as a subset of love, when you look at amorous relationships between people, you know, one can contend. If you truly love someone, you will be faithful. Huh? Subset of love, subset of faith. And as I say this, you know, I must share with you that I had the distinct pleasure, the distinct honor, as a unity minister now and Reverend, of conducting my first renewal of marital vows of a couple. My first renewal of marital vows of a couple was done, in fact, it wasn't this Friday, it was the Friday before. And it was special to me for more than one reason. It was special because it was the first one I've ever done. It was also special that it was my sister and her husband, my elder sister and her husband. And it was made even more special insofar as they were actually celebrating their golden jubilee, their 50th wedding anniversary. And what stood out for me very significantly, because they both had an opportunity, and I must tell you that it became a kind of unique thing, because even the DJ came from here. The DJ was Dane. They played some lovely music, and you know, and I didn't know that Dane at his age knew all those kind of back in times of people, you know what I mean? And had people dancing all night, and they didn't want him to stop, you know. And so I was making the point. And what stood out for me at that function, when they were given an opportunity to respond and so on, and they both responded, and you know, to the question, what would you say is responsible for the longevity of your relationship, you know, that usual question that is asked, and so, and they both in turn would have indicated that with love over the years grew trusts, you know, they trust each other. And when you think of trust, you're thinking of what word? Faith. with love grows trust. And over the years, they've come to love each other more, and they've come to trust each other more and more. And I don't know that after 50 years, there's anything to doubt after that. There's anything to doubt after that. So that was indeed wonderful. So I'm saying that there's an interconnectedness as well between faith, even in the spiritual sense, and love. In fact, the author, Reverend Colbert, in today's lesson as you just read, tells us that love is the catalyst for faith. So she's showing a relationship between love and faith. Love is the catalyst for faith. Grounding ourselves, she tells us, in loving kindness, elevates and faith blooms. So when there's love, faith blooms. And the thing is, friends, if I truly love God, then my faith becomes a mirror of that love. If I truly love God, then my faith becomes a mirror of that love. In Mark 11 verse 22, we are told what? Have faith in God. And we are told in other scriptures in the book of Matthew 22 that we must love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your mind. And I want to posit this morning that when you truly develop a steadfast, unwavering faith in God, then loving your God with all your heart and with all your mind and with all your soul comes as a natural consequence of that faith that you deposit in God. Faith and love. So that there's an invariable relationship between strength and faith, between love and faith, and even with wisdom and faith. Think about it. When you're growing in faith, when your faith, as Emily Cady has told us in Lessons in Truth, moves beyond just a blind faith or an understanding faith where you're working with the laws and principles of the universe, also your wisdom and good judgment will be enhanced. Relationship, faith, and all of them. And we can go on and on ad infinitum. Ad infinitum, because faith is the backbone or the foundation upon which so many more of our other faculties are built. And Reverend Colbert also points out, within each of us is a wellspring of faith. Do you know that? Within each and every one of us is a wellspring of faith. Within each of us, a wellspring of faith readily available as we open our minds and hearts to our oneness and our constant connection with God. And I want to say something, It is not so much that one person has more faith than another. And I will explain. It is not so much that one person has more faith than another. You know what it is? It may be that one person is demonstrating this faith more than another. It may be that one person has a greater awareness of that wellspring of faith that he possesses more than another, and therefore demonstrates it accordingly. I will go further to say, even Jesus, and this may sound controversial for some who, of course, we are tuned in to the wider media, and it may sound a bit controversial to some who may have come from a certain traditional background, but I must make the point and explain. I don't know because you may not agree with this. But I'm saying to you that even with our way shower and elder brother Jesus Christ, it is not that Jesus had more faith in terms of the quantity or the quantum of faith than anybody else, What was different? What was different is the fact that Jesus achieved a heightened awareness of this faith, worked in accordance with this faith to the maximum, and reaped the results thereof. That was the difference. But it is the same wellspring of faith that lay within Jesus that lies within each and every one of us, just waiting to be called forth. But whereas Jesus called it forth and worked it effectively and efficiently and worked it to the max and in accordance with the other faculties, many of us are scratching the surface, and that's perhaps why we are here, to follow in Jesus Christ in the regeneration. And that is why he tells us in John 14 that these things I do, and greater things will he do, because I go to the Father. So what we each need to do, therefore, is to grow into a deeper and deeper awareness of the faith with which we are already endowed. We are already endowed with that faith, and work it in conjunction with the other faculties. That's what we are required to do. And again, as the author pointed out in today's lesson, at times our faith may seem unavailable, but is it really unavailable? It's lying right here. At times our faith may seem sporadic, even dissipated and wavering. And when life feels difficult, when the world appears to be in disarray, or our way forward is unclear, it might even seem to us that we're losing faith. It happens to all of us. Sometimes we feel as though we're losing faith. But as she points out, faith is neither fleeting or fickle. That wellspring of faith in you, you must know it is neither fleeting or fickle. It resides within us and within you and you and you and you. Within all of us. Just waiting to be called for, no matter what. Whatever you might be experiencing out there, that faith within you is waiting to be called forth and waiting to be used to the max. It follows then that when we are faced with the trials and when we are faced with the tribulations of our lives, the storms of our lives, that is the time to know that I walk by faith and not by sight. Our way shown, elder brother Jesus Christ, showed the way on so many occasions as to how faith works when called to the fore. We heard that scripture coming from Matthew 4 verses 37 to 40. When his disciples became greatly concerned about the imminent storm and felt there was nothing they could do. In other words, they began to panic, and they therefore ran for his assistance, and they woke him up because he was asleep at the time. And if Jesus were a teenager of today, living in Trinidad and Tobago, he might have responded by saying, where's the scene, where's all the fuss about, that small thing. He might have said that small thing, we're worried about, that small thing, And what did he do? He rebuked the wind, and he said unto the sea, peace be still, in faith believing. And the wind ceased, and there was a great calm, according to the scripture. The wind ceased, and there was a great calm. How was he able to do this? Is it that Jesus, as someone will tell you, and great respect to those of a different view, but some will tell you that he was able to do that because he had a special dispensation that was unique to him and applied only to him. We beg to differ. He was able to do this because he walked by faith and not by sight. He was able to do this because he had a heightened awareness of faith, which he used effectively and with efficacy and with efficiency. He was able to do this because he was in tune with that greater power that lay within him. But it is a power that is not limited to him alone. It's a power that lives within each and every one of us, just waiting to be called forth. And we have the wellspring of faith to call it into expression. He was able to do this because he wasn't waiting for the meteorologist's prognosis. He wasn't waiting for the meteorologist to say, well, the stormy weather will come to an end at a particular time and then to make his proclamation. No, he wasn't waiting for that. He wasn't looking at the dark clouds and the stormy winds and becoming afraid like his disciples were. No, why? Because he walked by faith and not by sight, and was able to proclaim, peace be still, in faith believing. And he went on, as we heard in that scripture, I'm paraphrasing. He went on to ask his disciples, how is it that ye are so fearful? How are you so fearful? How is it that you have no faith? So his very question implies that he expected them to operate in that way as well, because they also have faith in them as he had it within himself. That's why he asked the question. So in other words, he was calling on his disciples, and by extension he's calling on each and every one of us, whoever we may be, to develop a greater awareness of the faith that we already possess and call it forth into expression. To know that you walk by faith and not by sight. And friends, it is when the going gets rough that we must put our faith really to work for us. Not to become afraid then and to lose faith. That's where we must put the faith to work to first. That is when we must rise to show our faith in God, to show that we trust God, to show that we love God. Because showing that faith in God is showing that you love God too, as I said before. It is easy to say that we love God, that we trust God, that we have faith in God when things are going nice. It's easy to say that. But your true test of faith and your true strength of character, that is brought to the fore when you're faced with the storms of your life. You know that? That's when the true test of faith, when you're faced with the storms of your life. A pleasant good morning, CJ. When you're faced with the storms of your life, that's when your faith is brought to the fore. So Jesus is calling upon you to demonstrate that faith which you already possess. As you say, peace be still to the storms of ill health. As you say, peace be still, when the doctor gives you a prognosis at a human level may seem very uncomfortable. As you say, peace be still, when you're facing the storm of financial difficulties, when when the gas prices at the pump go up, and you're wondering where the money coming from now to pay for this high level of gas price, peace be still. Peace be still to the storm of having to deal with difficult neighbors as I have been having to deal with for some time now. Peace be still. Peace be still to the storm of having to deal with your doubts, having to deal with your fears, having to deal with your anxieties, knowing that your faith is not fleeting or fickle. As Reverend Colbert tells us again, it resides within you. It is solid, it is strong, just waiting to be used. And the difference is the extent to which you are willing, ready to utilize it, to make effective use of it. So friends, it's a very simple message this morning, which is to use your faith, walk in this faith, as the lesson tells us today. Walk in this faith. Remember always the admonition given in James 2 verse 17, which is, remember the admonition given in James 2 verse 17, which is, while you finishing the chorus, Martin will call it a bus out. Which is what? Faith without works. Faith without works is dead. You know, friends, well, what is the use of keeping all of this? You know, as we say, what is the use of keeping all the love bottled up in you if you don't give it away in like manner? What is the use of keeping all of this faith bottled up inside of you if you're not going to work it, if you're not going to use it? Because faith without works is there. You know, as I often say, you have to see the storms of your life as tests. Because we all go through our tests, you know. We have to see the storms of your life as tests to be overcome. And as I often say to you, when you have overcome, you can stand proud and give your testimonies. I don't know if it is done in other churches, but it is not by accident, you know, that every Sunday, I mean, people don't always respond, but it is not by accident that every Sunday we allow people an opportunity to give testimonies. That to me is very, very, very important. In fact, maybe we could ask Martin at some time to forget taping the message, man, but tape the testimonies that people are giving, that people are providing. Because the testimonies would be an indication as to the extent to which you're using your faith, applying your principles in faith believing, and what is the feedback you're getting from that. Because Martin can stand here from now until whenever. Ase Ase can stand for you now until whenever. Yeah, boy, that was a good message, boy. Or yes, girl, that was a good message, and so on. But what are you doing after the message? What are you going out there to do? Are you applying the principles when Ase Ase or Martin or Jill, whoever gives you a truth to work with for the week? Are you using that? And what are the results? What is the feedback? Because the feedback that you bring here can then serve as a best practice not only to you, but a best practice to others to implement. So I want to say that it's not only the sermon, but you see, that testimony time, I regard it as being very sacred, as being very significant. I mean, you don't always respond, but that's all right. But whenever you feel that prompted to get up and respond and to say, well, listen, last week Martin Boyer said to use the affirmation, I release and I renew, and I did X, Y, and Z, and I was faced with this situation, and I applied that in faith believing, and this was the result. I feel so happy, because then I know that the message is not falling on deaf ear. To say one thing, it's a good message, and so on, and they ask you, what was good about it? Well, what do you then say? What do you then say? Okay? And friends, even if your faith may appear to be wavering, do not be dismayed. Again, as Reverend Colbert points out in the lesson today, the disciple Peter represents faith. Not because his faith was constant, you know, but because he walked the entire journey from doubt, from fear to anxiety, until his faith grew to a level of certainty. So don't be too disturbed if you find that you're wavering sometimes. That's all right. You falter, you dust off your pants, or you dust off your skirt, or your dress, whatever you're wearing, and you get up and you move on again. You move on again. Boldly forward, friends. In other words, when you consider Peter, Peter grew into an awareness of faith. He grew into it. Into that awareness of faith which he already possessed. And every day we are called upon, whoever we may be, whatever level we may be at, to grow into the awareness of faith which we already possess within us as a wellspring. And we just need to continue to give ourselves the reminder that we have that wellspring of faith waiting to be utilized, because faith without works is dead. Faith without work is dead. And that every day I walk by faith and not by sight. Recognizing, as told in Hebrews 11, that faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. That's just another way of saying what? We walk by faith and not by sight. Because faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things what? Not seen. I walk by faith and not by sight, friends. And as a dear friend once said to me, and it has left an indelible impression in my mind, and whenever I make reference to faith, I always make reference to this. You might have heard me say it before, which is that prayer indeed may be the doorway to heaven. Prayer may be the doorway to heaven. In fact, it is. You may argue the doorway to heaven, but faith is the key that unlocks that door. Let us understand that. God is blessing you. Let's become quiet for a few moments as we gently close our eyes. I don't know if Ari could put on something a little soothing for me. You get to understand Uncle Martin so well, like one time before I said you're moving to the computer, so like you come with something prepared all the same.